Good evening, I'm Jason Vio. Katarina is away. Thanks for watching CBC Windsor News. Our top story tonight, a long-standing issue in Windsor's West End, boarded up homes owned by the Ambassador Bridge. Now that area's councillor says there's hope for the future. Chris Ensing reports.
These homes are the latest to be approved by the City of Windsor for demolition. They're owned by the company that owns the Canadian side of the Ambassador Bridge. People have wanted these homes torn down for nearly decades. Now they want to know what's happening next.
This is the last piece of the puzzle to really completely see a revitalization of Sandwich Town.
That's how the West End councillor describes ongoing negotiations between the city and the owner of the Ambassador Bridge company. Both sides are working out what to do with bridge-owned vacant properties that dot the West End. The bridge company says it no longer plans to build a replacement bridge, but it will be relocating secondary inspection sites for transport trucks, which now sit further down here on Church, toward the foot of the Ambassador Bridge.
But the nuances and some of the intricacies are things that are being worked out right now amongst parties, and I can't share. It's going through external legal counsel at the moment. But like I said, I'm very hopeful that we're going to see something sooner than later.
These are conceptual maps the Ambassador Bridge links to on its website. The biggest shift is the extension of the truck plaza off the tracks near College and Huron Church. Windsor's mayor says negotiations are moving slow, but they're positive. And he says he's never felt better about the relationship between the city and the bridge. Same with Costante.
It appears as though we've turned a new page, and I'm much more hopeful and optimistic than I've ever been.
The city has approved demolition permits for 14 homes owned by the bridge on the West End and expects to issue 5 more permits in the near future. Representatives for the bridge did not agree to an interview, but did send a statement saying they're working with the city on a number of issues and are optimistic they can make a deal that's good for the bridge, the city, and the people who live here. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
A new report from Workforce Windsor Essex shows just how many jobs it expects NextStar's energy plant to bring to the region. The report, which was conducted before Trump's tariff threats were made, finds that in addition to 2,500 direct jobs being created by the plant, an additional 650 jobs have been created at the Advanced Research and Development Center at the University of Windsor. More than 1,900 spin-off jobs are also expected to be created at local manufacturers and part suppliers. That will bring the total to more than 5,100 jobs being created in our region thanks to the NextStar energy plant. Now, the NextStar plant will be operational later this year. The Director of Research and Innovation at Workforce Windsor Essex says while the uncertainty of tariffs loom, the region is well positioned to succeed.
So we can expect obvious workforce implications because of the tariffs coming, but we find that with this report it really emphasizes the resiliency of Windsor Essex. We've gone through hardships like this specifically in the automotive industry before. We've been able, thankfully, to come out positively on the other side, and I think with a lot of the training that's gotten for workers around EV, it just shows the pivot ability that we have in Windsor Essex to train new workers into in-demand fields.
But there are opportunities as well with the growing EV ecosystem. St. Clair's Director of Research and Innovation says the college is helping that workforce grow.
Windsor, this is our moment to thrive, innovate and prosper. Act now, in a creative manner and embody the resilient spirit of Canada Strong. Let's not just dream about the future, let's build it.
Time now for a quick peek at weather. Colette, I'm feeling that shift. Where do things sit now?
Yeah, the winds, gusty, cooler air moving in, the temperature falling, all those things happening. And something else that happened, I just want to show you. I've taken off the satellite and radar imagery, and this is going back to yesterday, the 19th, and just showing you what some of those dust particles were in the air. And we ended up in certain areas where maybe you had that kind of film on your car or almost like spots of mud this morning. We call that dirty rain or wet deposition as it pulled that dust out of the atmosphere and deposited it on things at the surface. Overnight tonight, we are looking at that temperature continuing to slide. So -2, it's going to be a chilly start to the day tomorrow, but I'll let you know where we're going with those temperatures and how the weekend looks when I come back.
All right. Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
The Windsor Police Services Board held its first meeting today since CBC News reported that an internal investigation substantiated claims that Chief Jason Belair made racist comments at work. And while in public session, the board made no mention of that issue. Chair Joanne Gignac did say this, though, about Belair's early retirement coming up in November.
We'll have opportunity to celebrate and make comments a little further on.
After that public meeting, there was an in-camera session of the board. When that was done, Gignac didn't come out to speak with reporters as chair of the board. During the public meeting, Windsor Police also discussed the Glengarry neighborhood, saying their increased police presence there is working. Now, Glengarry isn't even in the top 10 of Windsor's neighborhoods with the most amount of violent crime. Police say due to the success, they're slowly starting to pull resources out.
The idea here is to basically, slowly remove ourselves from areas and making sure that they're sustainable without our presence there. And again, if we're required to go back, we would go back for sure.
In provincial news, measles cases in Ontario have risen sharply. The province reporting a dramatic increase over the last week. There are now 470 cases, 120 more than a week ago, mostly spread among unvaccinated people. Here in Windsor, Essex, there have been 19 cases of measles reported so far this year. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has more.
Measles cases in Ontario have exploded in the past week, up by 120 to 470. Of those, 361 are confirmed, the rest considered probable cases. Since the outbreak started at the end of October, most of the cases have been in the Southwestern Public Health Unit, followed by Grand Erie. Here are the other areas that have been hit. In 85% of the cases, people were unvaccinated.
If this vaccine did not work, we would have a very different case count. Please, do not risk your health or your child's health through a measles infection.
More than 350 of the cases are in people under 20. In those hardest hit health regions, Public Health Ontario is fast-tracking when children can be vaccinated.
They're actually eligible for receipt of an early dose of the measles vaccine, so between the ages of 6 and 11 months, rather than the routine dose at 12 months. The second dose has also been accelerated.
That means instead of having to wait until a child is 4 to 6 years old, they can receive their second dose as soon as 1 month after the first dose. A new NDP MPP, who's also a family doctor, responded ahead of the party's first caucus meeting since the election.
I think it's devastating. I think we haven't seen these number of cases in a very long time. And the thing that's very tragic about it is that we know that it's going to impact children the most, and we also know that we have something to prevent this significant illness and death.
We need to hear from our Chief Medical Officer of Health. We need a commitment from the provincial government to adequate funding for our public health units so they can actually do the work that's necessary to improve education and vaccination.
Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health did release a statement last week urging people to make sure they're immunized. Health officials say they want to fight misinformation that's out there, that being infected with measles is a good way to achieve immunity. They say while most people do recover, health effects can be serious. In this outbreak, 34 people have been sent to hospital, 2 of them to the ICU. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
CBC News has learned that Prime Minister Mark Carney will ask the Governor-General to dissolve Parliament on Sunday, and that means an election may be held as soon as April 28th. Ashley Burke has more.
The Prime Minister hit the ice with the Edmonton Oilers as he gets ready to hit the campaign trail. Sources say Mark Carney's game plan is to ask the Governor-General on Sunday to trigger an election.
I haven't been Prime Minister for a week yet, and you can see what we've done thus far. We can do even more with that strong and clear mandate to move forward for the country, for all Canadians.
After a year trailing far behind the Conservatives in the polls, the Liberal Party appears to have turned its political fortunes around. After Justin Trudeau resigned, Donald Trump threatened Canada, and Mark Carney took over as Prime Minister.
It's one of the most unprecedented shifts in public opinion we've seen in modern history.
If Canadians voted today, Eric Grenier says polling suggests the Liberals could win a tight race.
Maybe potentially getting a majority government that even Justin Trudeau couldn't get in the last 2 elections.
After losing some ground in the polls, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre in Quebec announcing pre-approved areas for industrial construction projects and defending his campaign's decision to bar journalists from traveling on his party's bus and plane during the campaign.
We will have open media across the country. Local media will have the ability to ask questions. It will be refreshing to hear from local outlets on what they have to say about their local priorities.
The decision means it could be harder for political journalists to attend press conferences in remote areas and hold Poilievre to account.
He gets defensive, he gets offended, he can't handle questions.
The NDP's leader is fighting for his political life. His party's being squeezed out of the race. Polling suggests his party's at risk of losing official party status, and he's at risk of losing his own seat.
News for everybody, we're not going anywhere. We're always going to fight for working people. We're not going anywhere.
The polls lately have shown just how dramatically and quickly public opinion can change and could continue to change during the election campaign, which we're expecting to be short. Sources say that Canadians could head to the polls on April 28th or May 5th. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
A preliminary report has been completed on the February 17th crash at Toronto's Pearson Airport. The jet skidded on landing and flipped over on the runway, and many questions still remain. Thomas Dagla reports.
In the final seconds of Delta Flight 4819, new data shows the plane hurtled toward the ground at more than 1,100 feet per minute, setting off an internal warning alarm, then this. The fiery crash igniting a cloud of jet fuel and sending the plane skidding upside down on the snowy Pearson Airport runway.
Everybody's been cooperating greatly.
Ken Webster is the Transportation Safety Board's lead investigator.
From 150 feet down, their rate of descent increased, and there was an alert or warning from the warning system on the aircraft of a sink rate, indicating the high descent rate.
These new pictures released by the TSB show carry-on luggage that flew to the ceiling and the small roof hatch that the two pilots had to crawl through to escape.
Which the report doesn't really go into detail is the conversation that took place in the cockpit between the pilot flying and the pilot assisting. There should be a constant chatter.
The TSB's initial report confirms it was the first officer flying that Bombardier jet. She had been hired 13 months prior. The more experienced captain also sitting in the cockpit.
I think it was the negligence of the first officer who was flying the aircraft that caused the accident.
Investigators aren't laying blame and haven't yet determined a cause, though questions remain about that first officer's botched landing.
I remember telling my wife that we seem to be going fast.
Delta Airlines says it won't cost
after the team. Your hometown hockey team, the Windsor Spitfires, is headed to the playoffs after the team failed to make it there last year. CBC video producer Mike Evans spoke to the team.
When I first got here, it was a really cool experience. I got to watch them go to the OHL finals, and unfortunately they lost. And then my first year we came first, and then we had an unfortunate first round, and got out then. And then last year was a tough year for us. So no, it's been a lot of ups and downs, and then obviously this year's been unbelievable for us, and I'm so proud of the guys. So I'm excited to see what we can do come playoff time.
When I got hired here, I knew there was a lot of real nice pieces. Billy Bowler's done a great job, obviously. When you can coach the likes of Liam Greentree and Ilya Protas and Anthony Cristoforo and the list, AJ Spellis, the list goes on, and we came in with a plan to cut down our goals against from last year, and the team's taken off.
What has the coach been saying to kind of get you guys prepared for the playoffs?
Just kind of making sure our habits are good. We don't want any bad habits to creep into the playoffs, and being smart and maybe not taking suspensions that can sit us down for a game or two in the playoffs. So we just want to make sure we're doing all the right things heading in.
How you feeling coming to Canada to play hockey?
Oh, that's awesome. It's really hockey country, and people love it here, and a lot of fans around the team, so it's awesome. I really love it here.
50 goals, that's kind of rare. Like, you're one of the top scorers in the league, right?
Yeah, appreciate it. It's good achieved, but it's all about my teammates and coaching staff and chemistry and organization management. So it's, of course, it's my line mates and Liam Greentree and Noah Morneau. I play with them most of the season. So, but yeah, it's good to score and help the team win.
How far do you think you guys can go in the playoffs?
Memorial Cup Championship.
Still to come here on CBC Windsor News, how Canadian is Tim Hortons? That story is coming up next. As the trade war with the U.S. continues, companies in this country are promoting their Canadian roots, among them Tim Hortons. But as Mike Crawley shows us, its new marketing campaign is triggering a debate about just how Canadian the company really is.
Over its 60-year history, Tim Hortons has often marketed its Canadianness.
Citizenship, Canadian. Proof. Roll up the rim to win.
Now these social media posts are triggering a debate. Just how Canadian is Tim Hortons?
Oh, that's a great question.
The company was co-founded by hockey player Tim Horton and businessman Ron Joyce with one outlet in Hamilton in 1964. U.S. hamburger chain Wendy's bought the company in 1995 and maintained ownership for more than a decade. Then in 2014, Tim's was taken over by Restaurant Brands International. At that time, a Brazilian firm controlled nearly half of the company's shares. Now, the ownership is more spread out, including among U.S. and Canadian investors.
Is Tim Hortons really Canadian?
It's not owned by a Canadian company anymore,
it was
right?
founded by a Leafs player, Tim Horton, though.
Yeah, sure.
It's a Canadian company.
I think it's a Canadian company.
It's
like known for being Canadian.
The more than 4,000 Tim Hortons locations across the country are controlled by Canadian franchise owners like Tanya Doucette.
I'm Canadian. My family, we're part of this business. We've been almost 20 years as restaurant owners, my husband and I.
Tim Hortons is totally Canadian. I think it's our claim to fame. I don't know. It's very Canadian core to me.
They're very strategic in how they're marketing this.
Natasha Kaufman runs a public relations agency.
They're saying that it's a brand that's loved by Canadians, which is absolutely true. We've been part of Canada's history for 60 years, also true. But what's misleading is that they're not owned by a Canadian company anymore.
A Tim Hortons spokesperson says its corporate headquarters and main coffee roastery are located in Canada.
I'm not Canadian myself, so for me it's quintessentially Canadian.
All food for thought in a debate happening across the country, often over coffee. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
China has now imposed tariffs on some major Canadian imports. Laura Westbrook tells us which products are affected and looks at the ongoing dispute between the two trading partners.
China's tariffs on Canadian agricultural and food products are in retaliation for Canadian tariffs introduced last October. 100% tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles and 25% tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminium. Then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that it was to level the playing field for Canadian workers as Chinese state subsidies were making Chinese products cheaper and flooding overseas markets, creating unfair competition. Beijing has refuted those claims, calling them groundless, and it has filed a complaint with the World Trade Organization, accusing Canada of protectionism. It's also said that the Canadian measures are harming global trade and harming the rights and interests of Chinese companies. China also launched an anti-dumping investigation, which is still ongoing. Now, economist Gary Ung told me that this is Beijing sending a signal to Canada to push back on pressure from the United States to put tariffs on Chinese goods. Canada followed in the footsteps of the United States in imposing tariffs on Chinese EVs. And last month, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called on Canada to match fresh U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods. China is Canada's second largest trading partner after the United States, and analysts say that these tariffs are designed to be costly towards Canada and its farmers. For example, lobster, where China is a big market. Last summer, we saw a surprise visit by the Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly to Beijing, which was seen as a sign that they wanted relations to thaw. But with these latest tariffs, that doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. Laura Westbrook for CBC News, Hong Kong.
And CBC News will have special coverage Sunday when the election call comes. Join Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton and David Cochran, host of Power and Politics, on CBC Television, CBC News Network, and anywhere you can get CBC News online. Well, still to come here on CBC News, Colette Kennedy joins us live for a full look at your weather forecast coming up right after the break. Colette Kennedy joins us live now for a look at weather. Colette, I do have a confession to make.
Yes?
I wasn't properly dressed this morning, even though we had this very detailed conversation yesterday about what was coming. I left the house, it was raining, put on a raincoat, but it wasn't thick enough. I was cold. Didn't expect that, that cold air.
Yeah, I was talking to one of our producers who said they did listen to me. And so even though it was, kind of warm going out, they brought their gear for when it was going to cool down. So live and learn.
Yeah.
All right, you're forgiven. All right, let's take a look at what's going on with those temperatures, how they have fallen. Just sitting at 3 degrees for Windsor, but -1 Goderich. Look at all the zeros showing up on the board too. Freezing temperature. The winds sustained. We're still looking at some of these winds 25 to 30 kilometers an hour, but some of the gusts have been much stronger, over 80, almost 85 kilometers an hour earlier today in Windsor. And some of these wind gusts continue to move eastward and to ramp up. So it's kind of a gusty evening, and then they'll ease off. Also, with that colder air moving in, what moisture left behind kind of changing over to a little bit of light snow, just kind of a trace to a dusting there. Mostly that will be melting on contact, and you can see this is kind of the back edge of it right there. So moving on, swinging on through southwestern Ontario so that we get into not only drying conditions, but also actually clearing and getting the skies clearing up, setting us up nicely for the start to the day tomorrow to get into some sunshine. So that takes us into Friday. I do want to mention, though, we've got a few things happening as we're headed into the weekend, which is that we're going to kind of bookend the weekend, where early on Saturday, some rain showers will be coming through. So this is Friday night into early Saturday morning. And again, a light mix for a very brief period of time is possible. And then kind of exiting the weekend, again, a chance to get into some rain showers that may change to a light mix. When I say light, you see what I mean? Less than 5 millimeters in terms of what we're looking at there. But watching those temperatures continuing to slide, at least -2 tonight for the low. Goderich, which I was showing you already at -1, sliding down there to -5. So a look at conditions for tomorrow. With the sun, we actually should warm up pretty decently, especially as the winds back off and then turn towards the southwest. 11 degrees into the weekend is kind of closer to seasonal. In fact, a little bit below. And there are those rain showers that come at us, kind of pushing us through the weekend.
And that's 777 lucky. Thanks, Colette.
Yeah, there you go. You're welcome.
That's it for us here at CBC Windsor. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Good night.